Members of the US Congress writing to Andrew, formally requesting an interview with him in connection with his friendship with the paedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein. Joining us now is our US correspondent, David Blevins. So Congress wants to talk to him. David, what is the chance of Andrew heading over to Washington?
No response yet from Andrew Mountbatten Windsor in relation to this request from the House Oversight Committee, that is the congressional committee that has been investigating Jeffrey Epstein, the group, for example, that has been releasing some of the documents like the so-called birthday book that there has been so much focus on in recent months. But I can tell you that 16 members of the committee, all Democrats, have now written to the former Duke of York, and they say they believe he may have crucial information about co-conspirators and enablers of Jeffrey Epstein's.
Congress just made a move that could drag Donald Trump right back into the depths of the Epstein saga. What started as an old scandal that refused to die has suddenly become Washington's newest political grenade. And this time it's Congress pulling the pin. Over the past few days, a group of Democrats and the House Oversight Committee quietly sent a formal letter overseas, not to a witness or to a whistleblower, but to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the man the world once knew as Prince Andrew. Their request testify before Congress about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And behind that request lies something much bigger, a pressure campaign aimed squarely at Speaker Mike Johnson and indirectly at Donald Trump himself. Because this isn't just about British loyalty and their crimes. It's about whether the US government is finally willing to drag the Epstein story out of the shadows at any cost, even if it makes some powerful people uncomfortable. Let's unpack what just happened, why it matters, and how it's become Trump's latest political headache. For years, the Epstein files have hung over politics like a storm cloud that never quite breaks. Everyone knows they're there, sealed and silent, filled with names and timelines and some loud thunder that the public has never seen or heard. And every so often, someone calls for their release for the public to see it, only for the issue to fade again as the administration says, oh, there's nothing here. There's no names, there's no list, or we don't want to. But this week, things shifted. 16 House Democrats signed a letter urging the committee to reopen the case, and this time they're staring at the top with one of Epstein's most famous associates. The letter asks Andrew Windsor to appear voluntarily before Congress by November 20th. It cites his long friendship with Epstein going back to 1999 and the fact that they stayed close even after Epstein's 2008 conviction for procuring minors. The Democrats say that Andrew may hold some crucial information about co-conspirators and enablers. That might sound like a polite invitation. Come and testify. We'll treat you nice. But in Washington language, it's a shot across the bow. When Congress asks someone like Andrew Windsor from another country to testify here, they're signaling that no one, not even a former royal, is off limits. And there is an unspoken comparison at play here because while Britain has already stripped Andrew of his titles, booted him from royal residences, and publicly humiliated him for his connection to Epstein, the United States has not taken a similar step with any of the Americans involved. Whether that's Trump allegedly, or any of his associates, or any of the Democrats or Republicans, or elite wealthy billionaire or CEOs, any of them. We know there's a lot of people involved, but we haven't prosecuted anyone.
Prince Andrew will no longer be a prince. The extraordinary announcement tonight from Buckingham Palace, pushed out of the royal family over his ties to the late convicted sex predator Jeffrey Epstein. King Charles stripping his brother of all his titles. He will effectively no longer be royal, something that has not happened in more than a century. He's also being kicked out of his royal residence. It's a scandal the palace has not been able to shake. Late today, the palace releasing a 3-paragraph statement saying the king initiated a formal process to remove the style, titles and honours of Prince Andrew, adding the prince will now be known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. The palace saying formal notice has now been served to surrender the lease on Royal Lodge, where Andrew has lived for more than 20 years. The palace statement ending, these censures are deemed necessary, notwithstanding the fact that he continues to deny the allegations against him. Their Majesties wish to make clear that their thoughts and utmost sympathies have been and will remain with the victims and survivors of any and all forms of abuse.
That contrast is deliberate. It's meant to make voters and Trump allies ask why the British monarchy moves faster on any kind of accountability than the US Congress ever has. At the heart of this strategy is the question, why now? Why drag a British former royal into a U.S. investigation years after Epstein's death? The answer lies in the political gridlock surrounding the release of the Epstein files. Democrats have been pushing for a full public release for months, but Speaker Mike Johnson has refused to bring it to a vote. He's argued that the issue is under review, which in Congress usually means not happening anytime soon. So Democrats found a workaround. By going international, by formally requesting testimony from Andrew Windsor, they're keeping the story alive and in the news while publicly pressuring Johnson to act. Now, let's talk about why Trump's name keeps hovering over this. Long before he was the president, Trump and Epstein moved in the same circles. They were great friends. Photos, party guest lists, and quotes from both men also show that they were acquainted and hung out with each other for years. In 2002, Trump famously called Epstein a terrific guy who liked women on the younger side. Later, he distanced himself, claiming that they'd had a falling out. And the story about that falling out is in itself crazy, but that's another story. But the connection has never entirely gone away. For Trump's critics, it is a lingering red flag. For his supporters, it's old gossip that means nothing and it doesn't mean anything. Oh, they were friends, but then they broke up. It's fine. But in politics, perception matters. And the moment Congress reopens the Epstein conversation and investigation, Trump's name, whether or not he's on that list, automatically resurfaces in the story, whether he likes it or not.
The former Prince Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor has been asked by American politicians to answer questions as part of their investigation into convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. A Congress committee of Democrats have called for his cooperation, but they don't have the power to compel him to appear. He strenuously denies all allegations against him. Our North America correspondent Peter Bowes reports.
In a letter to Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, Democrats on the US committee say they believe the former prince has valuable information about the crimes committed by Jeffrey Epstein and his co-conspirators.
This new move gives Democrats a way to highlight that connection without directly accusing him of anything. It lets them say, oh, we're just investigating Epstein's network, while knowing full well that the headlines will link Trump back to the scandal. And in my opinion, he's probably on there, but this way there's more accountability. It's better to just hint at it. And if he wants to say that he's not on there, then just release the files, Trump. Meanwhile, Andrew Windsor's situation only adds fuel to that fire. He's already been accused by Virginia Giuffre of sexual abuse when she was trafficked by Epstein, an allegation that he still denies. That now infamous photo of the two together has been dissected in the media for years, and his disastrous 2019 BBC interview only made things worse. In that interview, Andrew tried to explain away the allegations, claiming that he didn't remember meeting Giuffre. The backlash was so severe that he withdrew from public life days later after this. So when congressional Democrats decided to reach out to him, they know exactly how explosive that could be. Whether he agrees to testify or not, to try to prove his name in the media or not, the act of asking really sends a signal here. The U.S. is watching, and they're willing to go after anyone and follow the evidence across the borders to persecute people responsible. As of now, Buckingham Palace has offered no comment. Andrew himself hasn't responded either, but he's not a royal anymore. He's just a private citizen. So if he's committed a crime against U.S. citizens, he should be prosecuted.
Hear from him directly, although they can't force Andrew to give evidence because he's not an American citizen. The US lawmakers want to investigate allegations that he abused Virginia Giuffre, claims that he has strenuously denied, as well as gather information on Epstein's social network based on the two men's long-standing and well-documented friendship.
It's not hard to see why Democrats consider him a valuable witness. If Andrew confirms certain meetings or names, it could connect dots the public's never seen before. And if he refuses, it only deepens suspicion about what those dots might reveal. Either way, Congress can win in this case. They either get testimony or they get another reason to demand the full release of the Epstein files. On the American side, Republicans have stayed largely silent. Of course, the White House hasn't weighed in on this. Even Senate leaders have avoided comment. But behind the silence, there's unease. The Epstein issue doesn't fall neatly along party lines. There's a lot of people who care about this, and too many powerful figures from both sides have appeared in photos or documents linked to him. Still, this is Washington, and every moral stand doubles as a political strategy. For Democrats, the timing couldn't be better politically. With the government shut down, negotiations stalled, and public frustration rising, this Epstein push gives them even more of a dramatic narrative. It also keeps Trump on the defensive at a moment when he'd rather be talking about anything else. Obviously, he hates talking about this stuff. He's already juggling multiple legal battles and an upcoming election campaign and a government shutdown. The last thing he needs is Congress reopening a scandal tied to one of his old acquaintances. And make no mistake, even without direct accusations, the headlines alone are damaging. The phrase Trump next to Epstein in the same sentence is enough to dominate news cycles for days. Trump should release the Epstein files because at the end of the day, that is what this is about. It's about pressure, political, moral, and public. Socially, Democrats want to make it impossible for Johnson to keep sitting on those sealed documents. Every time he stalls, it's bad for their party. And they'll remind the public that even the British royals are being held to account while Republicans are not talking about any sort of accountability. So where does this leave Trump? He's not accused of any crime in connection to Epstein, but he's surrounded by a political environment where every connection, every old photo, and every quote can be used as ammunition. Congress's new move doesn't have to prove anything. It just has to make people wonder. And in politics, wondering is often enough to trigger those theories, even if we have our own personal beliefs on the facts of the matter. What happens next depends on how Andrew Windsor responds. If he cooperates, his testimony could finally connect some missing pieces in the Epstein network. If he refuses, the controversy only worsens. Either way, Congress has just raised the stakes. So for Donald Trump, this isn't just background noise. It is a reminder that some scandals don't fade. They wait in the background, and when they resurface, they usually do it at the worst possible time. The board is set and Congress has made its move. And if this play works, Trump might soon find himself back under the kind of spotlight that he thought he'd left behind.